Can you imagine being at the exact spot where a 4-year-long war finally ended?
Wow.
It's just mind-blowing.
You mean Appomattox Courthouse, right?
Exactly. The place where General Lee finally surrendered to General Grant. It's
Yeah.
such a pivotal moment in history.
It's hard to wrap my head around how they felt at that moment. The exhaustion, the tension.
Totally. After 4 years of brutal fighting, and then, on April 9th, 1865, it all comes to a head. Lee's army was practically on its last legs.
Right. They were starving and exhausted, weren't they?
Yeah, and, running out of options. Lee was trying to escape west to link up with other Confederate forces in North Carolina.
Right.
But Grant wasn't about to let that happen.
Grant was closing in fast, blocking every escape route. It's like a high-stakes game of chess, but with real lives on the line.
Exactly. And then Lee makes this desperate attempt to break through at Appomattox Courthouse. But his men ran straight into overwhelming Union reinforcements.
Talk about a worst-case scenario. They must have felt completely hopeless at that point.
Absolutely. It's like showing up to a fistfight and realizing the other guy brought an entire army. By mid-morning, Lee knew it was over.
So he sends a message to Grant, right? Asking for terms of surrender?
Exactly. And Grant, probably relieved to avoid more bloodshed, agreed to meet. And here's the crazy part. They met in the parlor of Wilmer McLean's house.
Wait, isn't that the guy whose house, or was it his front yard, where the war basically started?
Yes, can you believe that? The war started in his front yard and ended in his parlor. Talk about bad luck or, historical irony.
Yeah, that's just wild. Poor guy probably just wanted some peace and quiet.
No kidding. So there they were, Lee and Grant, sitting down to make it official. And, Grant was actually really respectful towards Lee.
Yeah, I've heard that. He offered pretty generous terms, didn't he?
He did. Confederate soldiers could go home, officers could keep their sidearms, and no one was getting thrown in jail. Lee probably expected much worse.
Definitely. I mean, after such a brutal war, you'd expect harsher consequences.
Exactly. But Grant chose to be gracious. Maybe he understood that the country needed healing more than punishment.
Yeah, that's pretty insightful, actually. It's like they were already thinking about reunification.
Right. So Lee accepts the terms immediately. Then he rides back to his troops to deliver the news.
I wonder how that went. Were the soldiers angry or relieved?
From what I've read, there was no anger, no dramatic speeches, just thousands of exhausted men realizing the war was finally over. They were probably too tired to feel anything else.
And the Union soldiers, they didn't celebrate, did they?
No, actually, they saluted their former enemies. It was one of the most dignified endings to a war in history.
Wow, that's really moving when you think about it. Enemies respecting each other at the end.
It speaks volumes about the human spirit, doesn't it? The Battle of Appomattox Courthouse wasn't really a battle. It was the moment the Confederacy officially collapsed.
And after that, the other Southern armies surrendered too, right?
Exactly. Within weeks, the remaining Confederate forces laid down their arms. The Civil War came to an end.
Finally, the country could start the process of healing and reunification.
Yeah, though the scars of war would last for generations. It wasn't an easy road ahead.
It's fascinating how Appomattox became a symbol of both defeat and reconciliation.
Absolutely. It's a place where the war ended not with vengeance, but with dignity. There's a powerful lesson in that.
Definitely. Sometimes surrendering gracefully is the bravest thing you can do.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, pick a better front yard if you don't want history unfolding on your doorstep.
Ha! Poor Wilmer McLean can't catch a break.
Seriously? His home became bookends to the Civil War.
Yeah.
Imagine the stories he could tell.
No kidding. It's amazing how individual lives intersect with these huge historical events.
It really is. And the fact that both leaders conducted themselves with such respect, it sets a precedent.
Right. Although, some might argue that the Reconstruction period didn't exactly live up to that spirit of reconciliation.
That's true. The aftermath was complicated and fraught with new challenges.
Mm-hmm.
The nation struggled to rebuild and address deep-seated issues.
But at least, for that moment at Appomattox, there was a glimpse of hope.
Exactly. A moment where the possibility of unity overshadowed division. It's something worth remembering.
Definitely. It's a reminder of the importance of humility and respect, even after severe conflict.
Couldn't agree more. The end of the Civil War was not just about military victory, but about starting the healing process.
Right. It's a powerful chapter in our history.
Indeed it is, and it's up to us to learn from it and strive for unity in our own times.
Mm-hmm.